As the Chinese New Year approaches, many young people are returning home for reunion, making it a peak time for concentrated matchmaking and discussions about marriage. However, exorbitant dowries are making marriage unattainable for many men. Hey, just wondering, do you expect a dowry for marriage? Of course. How much do you think? For someone like me, I think at least 5 million. Can you share your qualifications? Taller than 1.8 meters, must have a house and a car, and an annual income of 1 million. I meant your own qualifications, not your partner's criteria. Well, I have a bachelor's degree. I'm 1.7 meters tall and I live with my parents. I work as a receptionist and earn about 3,500 a month. And you're asking for a 5 million dowry? Yes, I think that's a basic requirement. What dowry do you expect? I'm not sure. Is 200,000 enough? My mom probably wouldn't like that. 500,000? She probably wouldn't like that either. 1 million? Might need a bit more. 2 million? I don't know. How much dowry do you need? At least 2 or 3 million. My family definitely wouldn't let me marry for less. What about your dowry? From my side, just a bed quilt, a red four-piece set.
How much would it cost to marry you?
A house in Beijing, Third Ring Road, plus 1 million cash. In our place, it's 10,000 per year of age. I'm 22 now, so it should be 2.2 million. The math skills of this girl are truly something else. 10,000 per year of age. So how does turning 22 suddenly amount to 2.2 million? And then the demands of these next two girls are just beyond words. Absolutely speechless.
What would your ideal boyfriend be like? Handsome, good-tempered, owning several houses with both parents deceased would be enough? Because I know it's really hard to deal with mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationships nowadays. I hope my future husband doesn't want children. I don't like having children as it affects my figure. And he should have at least 5 cars. 2 Rolls Royces, 2 Ferraris, and a more low-key Panamera would be enough. Also, my family is from Jiangxi, where the dowry is quite high. A dowry of 1 million is necessary, not including cars and houses. The dowry is an indispensable part of Chinese marriage customs, referring to the betrothal gift from the groom's family to the bride's family. In recent years, due to a severe imbalance in the gender ratio among young people, with more men than women, this has led to exceedingly high standards for brides-to-be and a surge in high-priced dowries.
In China, poorer rural areas often demand higher dowries for marriage. For example, in some of the poorest areas of Gansu, the dowry can reach around 300,000 yuan. Similar high dowries are common in Shandong, Heilongjiang, Liaoning, and Jiangxi. Combined with the cost of a house and a car typically provided by the groom, the total expense of marriage can reach up to 1 million or even several million yuan. Consequently, many young men from impoverished families remain single. Those who try to get married end up with significant debt and plunging them back into poverty. Many people criticize the practice as akin to selling daughters. The phenomenon is sky-high dowries is attributed to poverty and competition where families hope to improve their living conditions through their daughters' marriages, especially in families with sons. Parents demand high dowries for their daughters in order to finance their sons' future weddings. This resembles a form of transactional exchange. Previously, Chinese media reported on a 15-year-old girl from Shanxi forced into marriage for dowry money due to family poverty. This story drew widespread media attention. Going by the pseudonym Xiaoqing, the girl is a student at a middle school in Sichuan County, Ankan City, Shanxi. She did not return to school after Chinese New Year. Investigation revealed that her parents had arranged her marriage to a 25-year-old man from the same village during the holiday. According to reports, Xiao Qing's parents, facing severe financial difficulties, decided to marry her off early to obtain the dowry money to help the family. They claimed that they had already accepted the dowry from the man, making marriage unavoidable. Villagers revealed that this was not the first time Xiao Qing's parents had sought a husband for her. Amid a divorce, both parents wanted to offload the burden of their daughter while making some money. Although Xiao Qing's parents later returned the dowry under official intervention, her mother disappeared. In another incident, a surveillance video uploaded in February 2022 sparked heated online discussions. The incident occurred in Yinchuan Ningxia, on February 11, a video sharing platform Bilibili blogger shared a video from their home surveillance. My girlfriend was forcibly taken away because I couldn't afford a 500,000 yuan dowry. What should I do? The video shows a girl in pajamas being forcefully dragged out of her boyfriend's house by her family while she screams in despair. The boyfriend trying to save her gets beaten down, ending up in a pitiable condition. After the girl is taken away, he calls the police. The blogger said that he and his girlfriend had been in love for 6 years. Through their own efforts, they had bought a house together. The house had her name, but the relationship still faced strong oppositions from her family, who demanded a 500,000 yuan dowry for the relationship to continue, even suggesting they sell their house to raise the amount. Later, it was rumored that the girl's family was demanding the dowry to buy a house for her brother's marriage. The video rapidly went viral on the internet, garnering extensive attention and becoming a trending topic on Weibo. Many netizens expressed dissatisfaction with the actions of the girl's family. On February 13th, a woman involved posted a video on Bilibili in response. She explained that her family's financial situation didn't require a dowry in order to buy a house for her brother's marriage. She revealed that her family only demanded the 500,000 yuan dowry in anger during an argument, as she had informed them of their 6-year relationship with the man only recently. The true circumstances remain unclear, but media attention helped resolve the issue. On March 2nd, the male blogger announced on social media that he and his girlfriend had obtained their marriage certificate. This next couple was not as fortunate. On January 26, 2023, just after Chinese New Year, a couple from Sichuan who had been in a relationship for 8 years faced a challenging situation. During a meeting between their parents and relatives to discuss wedding and dowry arrangements, the woman's family demanded a dowry of 480,000 yuan. The man's family disagreed, leading to a falling out between the two families. As a result, the couple was forced to break up by their parents due to the dowry issue.
In another case, a young man had been in a relationship for 2 years and was discussing marriage with his girlfriend. However, her family insisted on a dowry of 300,000 yuan. Pressured by her parents, the girl harassed her boyfriend daily at his workplace. Eventually, the man, driven to desperation, suggested they break up.
The man said, "We've been together for 2 years. Your family wants a 300,000 yuan dowry and a 1.5 million yuan house. Where am I supposed to get that money? Are you trying to drive me to my death? You are making scenes at my office every day. Do you even want me to live? Do I owe your family anything?" In this video of a wedding ceremony, the groom's ex-girlfriend unexpectedly appeared, requesting to get back together. They had been a couple for 6 years. Close to their planned wedding, her family demanded a dowry of 600,000 yuan, which the man's family could not afford, leading to their breakup. The man quickly found another woman who did not demand a dowry and decided to marry her. Upon learning this, his ex-girlfriend, regretting their breakup, showed up at the wedding ceremony, offering a substantial cash dowry in reverse and even willing to provide a house and a car if he agreed to get back together. She explained that the initial demand for a 600,000 yuan dowry was just a test. Despite her kneeling and pleading for forgiveness, it was too late. The girl sadly left the ceremony. While breaking up over dowry issues is tragic, what's even more heartbreaking is when dowry demands are increased at the last minute on the wedding day, putting the groom in an extremely difficult position.
拿出50万
Bring out 500,000 and we'll continue the wedding. If you can't, then no wedding.
Mom, please trust me with your daughter. I promise to take good care of her.
Let me tell you, no 500,000, no marrying my daughter. Exorbitant dowries have led banks to take advantage of this business opportunity. On March 16, 2021, a message circulated widely online stating that the Bank of Zhujiang in Jiangxi province planned to introduce a dowry loan. According to the promotional poster, the loan could be as high as 300,000 yuan with a maximum term of 1 year and an annual interest rate as low as 4.9%. The loan was intended for expenses such as honeymoon travel, car purchases, jewelry, and home appliances. Applicants were required to be at least 22 years old, have been working continuously for at least 12 months, and one of the couple had to be a regular employee of a government or public institution. However, this product, which claimed to ease the burden of dowry expenses with the slogan, "Don't worry about dowry expenses, borrow for a steady happiness," sparked skepticism and criticism online. Netizens question whether the bank was crazy for money, accusing it of disregarding social ethics and fueling the harmful trend of high-priced dowries. In response, Bank of Zhejiang issued an apology on the evening of March 18, stating that the product had been withdrawn and the person directly responsible for this offering had been suspended. With the dowry loan no longer an option, a young man in Jiangxi resorted to using credit cards to meet dowry demands.
What's this tactic of borrowing credit cards to gather dowry money? In some places, dowries for marrying off a daughter are incredibly high. For example, in the rural areas of my hometown in Jiangxi, the average dowry has reached 360,000, not including cars and houses. Just before the end of the year, a classmate of mine went back home for a blind date arranged by relatives. They both liked each other, and soon it was time to discuss the dowry. Following local customs, the girl's parents asked for 380,000 yuan and said if he could pay, they could marry that year. If not, then forget it. My classmate's brother had just gotten married, and all the family's money was spent, so they really couldn't come up with it. But the girl's family refused to lower their demands. With no other option, my classmate borrowed money from relatives and friends, but still fell short by tens of thousands. With the new year approaching and everyone about to leave for work, he desperately decided to overdraw on credit cards and pay back the money after getting married. He hastily opened several credit cards and maxed them out, managing to scrape together tens of thousands. Then he went ahead with the 380,000 dowry proposal. They got married a few days later and went out to work together. Soon, the credit card debts started piling up, and that's when my classmate told his wife about the credit card borrowing. That's how my classmate managed to reduce the dowry by cashing out credit cards. It might be a bad tactic, but it's one forced by the distorted high dowry demands these days. It's not evil. In my view, it's an effective strategy against absurdly high dowries.
The high cost of dowries had pushed up marriage expenses, leading to a common situation in rural areas where a single marriage incurs debt for the entire family, causing great distress. As a result, there have been continuous calls to regulate high dowries, with local governments issuing documents to reform customs, setting limits on dowry amounts. The Central No. 1 document released on February 13, 2023 specifically called for special management of prominent issues in key areas such as high dowries and extravagant celebrations. So, can government intervention in setting dowry limits and banning excessive dowries solve the problem of rural young men's difficulty in marrying? In reality, it cannot. The main reason is that in areas where dowry prices remain high, there is usually a severe shortage of eligible women. This shortage is primarily caused by two factors. Number one, imbalance in the birth-sex ratio. This is mainly due to rural attitudes favoring sons over daughters and the merits of Planned Parenthood. Decades of data show that China's birth-sex ratio increased with the tightening of birth policies and then declined as policies relaxed. In 2004, China's birth-sex ratio peaked at 121, with provinces like Jiangxi, Guangdong, Hainan, Anhui, and Henan exceeding 130. Those born during this period are now reaching marriageable age. In 2020, there were 34.9 million more males than females in China's total population, with 17.5 million more males in the 20 to 40 age group. Number two, outflow of rural women. Compared to rural men, rural women are more likely to settle in cities that offer better conditions for marriage or employment, giving them a wider range of choices in marriage. Although modern-day ethics and laws do not allow monetary pricing in marriage, in situations where there is a severe shortage of women and the men's overall value lacks competitiveness, paying a high dowry to bridge the gap seems to be one of the few available methods. Therefore, even if the government invests sufficient resources to regulate high dowries or introduce stricter measures, such as allowing men to sue for the return of dowries exceeding the limit after marriage, it will likely exacerbate the imbalance in the marriage market and create greater shortages. Additionally, if high dowries are not allowed, why would women choose to marry into remote rural areas where there is a scarcity of women? Without high dowries, the outflow of women will become more severe, making it even harder for rural men to find wives. Government regulations could also lead to collusion between the parties, adopting more covert methods of dowry payments. Recent surveys show that in 22% of rural areas, the proportion of unmarried men over 30 exceeds one-third, and in 63% of rural areas, it exceeds 10%. This figure is expected to continue to rise. In contrast to underdeveloped rural areas, in high-income cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen, not only are exorbitant dowries almost non-existent, but dowries themselves are optional. If both parties are well matched and in love, or if the man has good prospects, the woman might even be willing to contribute more. This is not because of higher moral standards or successful reform in big cities, but due to a roughly balanced supply and demand in the marriage market, even with more women than men. Therefore, some suggest that the best way to fundamentally change the issue of high dowries and difficulties for rural men in finding wives is to reform rural land property rights. Rural men lack competition in the marriage market mainly due to the absence of a suitable property rights system. If individuals had even partial property rights over rural land, allowing free investment, transfer, inheritance, and mortgage, the wealth gap between rural and urban areas would rapidly narrow, and rural men's competitiveness will significantly increase. Moreover, reforming the household registration system, breaking the urban-rural dichotomy, increasing population mobility between urban and rural areas, and improving rural infrastructure and public services could alleviate the outflow of rural women, thereby easing the supply and demand contradiction in the marriage market. However, these measures are independent and complex, and the CCP may not be willing to change such a deeply entrenched social structure. Issuing a document to ban high dowry is certainly more convenient and straightforward. Therefore, as long as the CCP rules, China's urban-rural dual structure is unlikely to change, and the problem of high dowries in rural areas will persist, leading to an increasing number of bachelors in rural China.